All right. Welcome to another episode of the Bring the Juice podcast. I'm your host, Frank Delana. Today on the pod, we have an OG reoccurring guest, Marcus McMaryion. Marcus, say what's up to Juice Nation real quick, baby.
What's happening?
Yes, sir.
First we gonna rock, then we gonna fold, then we let it pop, don't let it go.
Juice is high per usual. I went with a classy fit, had time to come home from work, take a nice little shower, been having this chain out for a minute. Thought it was a good day to rep it, you know? We need a little pick-me-up right now in life. I think the dogs use a little pick-me-up.
It's the first time you pulled that out?
I'm changing it.
First time. I feel honored. Thank you.
Well, you know,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Marcus, I want to start us off today, actually, before I even do that. Just a reminder to everyone, this episode is brought to you in part by the American Pistachio Growers. If you want to perform like the pros, then eat your pistachios. Eat your nuts, kids. Come on now. I want to start with the David Goggins quote that I read today. It was sent to me, and I'm going to pass it on. Take one, pass it on.
Going deep.
If you want to get better, do the things no one else wants to do. David Goggins. Now, you know, David Goggins is a guy who we both like. Clearly a role model to some people. I think he has some positive things. I think there's some things that aren't necessarily, they're not relevant, like because you can't do with 10,000 pull-ups in a day and still work all day. You can't run 20 miles. Like, that's a whole different debate we could get into. But a quote like that, I'm going to read it again. If you want to get better, do the things no one else wants to do. How is somebody supposed to absorb that, make a plan of attack, and then execute?
I think it's really dependent on what season of life someone's in. To where, like you said, I mean, someone who has a 9-to-5 job, it might mean something else versus if you're talking to a Fresno State athlete or someone who's in college. I mean, they could really take that and run with it and grind. And I was actually thinking about that on the way up here as far as, in your opinion, how many days off do you actually think we had while at Fresno State? To where, like, I'm talking day off, you're not thinking about football and you're full blown just like, I'm off. Like, how many days do you think?
Our era together?
Yeah.
Okay, so
over the course of a year.
2 years together.
Yeah, I'm talking from January to February. How many days do you actually think we have off?
So, okay, me and you were similar in the workhorse mindset.
Yeah.
My answer would be different than I'm not going to name some guys.
Yeah.
Maybe like
a solid what?
12, maybe. And this is the 12. It is.
That's a whole year though, which is crazy.
I'd say the only real time I took off was from bowl game to
kind of that spring ball stretch. You have a couple days here and there.
I would say like the bowl game. Let's say the bowl game is December 20th. I'm probably chilling until about the 27th. I'm going to enjoy the holiday. Then I'm going to go for a light run.
Yeah.
Every day I'm stretching no matter what because I'm that dude.
Yeah.
You get to a point when you go through enough injuries in your professional career where you're like, half the game is staying healthy.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about it on Bring the Juice all the time. But yeah, you don't get any time off. Like, people think the first run is usually January 15th, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Bro, you know how long that is until you have a football season? Like,
yeah.
That's hundreds of days.
Yeah. And I think that's what you're saying as far as like showing up every day. That's where it's like, I was really thinking about like working that where everyone comes and talks to the players and like, oh, we love hiring athletes. We love doing this. We love doing that. And it's like, man, I realized where if you apply half of your athletic dedication and kind of demeanor that you took to your athletics, I mean, you're going to crush everyone. You're going to be average on accident, you know, exactly. Which is crazy.
You know, I mean, one of the second points I wanted to even discuss was just like, controlling the controllables. I know Coach Tedford had his sayings. I think everyone has their sayings, but one thing I think it takes a sense of maturity to understand. And I mean, I had days where like I'm not where I want to be on the depth chart necessarily. I know you had days in your career where you were like that, but one thing that you learn, and it takes a sense of maturity to be able to swallow that pill and look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, I did everything I possibly could today to get better. And it's and ultimately, if you are a guy who consistently, keywords consistent here, underline that, consistent, you know, you show up on time, you give maximum effort, and you have a positive attitude, then you're doing the right things right. You can't control how many reps you get. You can't control if you're gonna get the play that the ball goes to you. You're gonna get in. You're gonna do that. Blah blah blah. You might be hurt. You might be on a high right now, but if you could go every day and control the controllables, and that's we're talking football, dude. That's anything. You could be a boss, you could be a freaking dad, you could be trying to start this business. If you're showing up and putting the work in on time, because that's something you could plan out and do, you're giving extreme effort, maximum.
Yeah.
And then your attitude's good. You could control your attitude. Yeah, maybe someone pissed in your Wheaties that day, but get over it. That's part of just nutting up and being a man, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think I actually just listened to Eric Thomas. He was talking on a podcast, and it's something I've never heard said this way. He was talking about like how comparison's the thief of all joy, kind of talking about that. But he was saying how a lot of people get caught window shopping and looking out the window instead of looking in the mirror. And that's kind of like what you're saying as far as, I mean, controlling the controllable. I was like, dang, I said, that's exactly where it's at. And even, I mean, when you're not exactly where you want to be in the depth chart, I mean, I remember times at Oregon State to where I know people who were in my corner, good-hearted, good intentions, were almost hyping me to the point to where I felt validated if I had the victim mentality. And I had to kind of talk myself out of that. Like, no, like, you're not the victim here. If you were 10 times better than the guy you're battling with, there wouldn't even be a question, to where that's where you kind of have to talk to yourself and look in the mirror and say, hey, am I actually doing everything I can to kind of earn this spot and deserve it, you know? Yeah,
and I think out of those three, between being on time, maximum effort, and controlling your attitude, being on time is a staple that, you know what, you're 18 years old. I learned this in high school. And I also am that guy who, like, I respect other people's time, to where if I'm supposed to be somewhere at 7, I'm not the guy who's going to be there at 7:08. Like, sorry, man. Like, no, I'm going to be there freakishly early, if anything, because that's just how I'm wired. If somebody's late for me, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got friends who they'll show up to dinner 45 minutes late. I also have friends who they'll be there 7 minutes early in the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, you're used to being early as well. But the sooner you could understand just being somewhere on time, you automatically are on the top 50% of the entire population.
Yeah. And I think that's huge too, to where I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough as far as guys being successful in sports and life, or whatever the case is, to where there's a lot of things that happen that have zero to do with your athletic ability or talent. As far as just, I mean, showing up on time. Like, I was a guy to where I took a lot of pride in showing up when Coach DeBoer, when Tedford was there. Like, I took pride in walking in with them together. Like, hey, what are we about to break down before the team gets there and stuff like that. And I mean, guys knew that I was doing that, to where that's where like little stuff, you start earning the respect of your teammates. And when I got to Fresno, I mean, that was the biggest thing I was concerned about, to where I've seen the flip side of it. You have the coaches, leaders were like, oh yeah, that's our leader, but kind of players are bickering about him and saying stuff, to where when I got to Fresno, I said, I'm going to earn the respect of my teammates first, and everything else will just fall in line after that.
Ultimately, it all comes down to respect. And, you know, the being on time thing, I 100% agree with you. It puts you on the top 50%. The maximum effort in football, it's easy to say, don't loaf. In sports, if you're going to practice, you're going to practice how you play.
Yeah.
If you're jogging a route, well, you're probably not going to execute it at the speed you need to in a game situation.
Right.
If you're half-assing something, it's not going to translate over. That's, the older you get, you learn that. But you could control your effort. And there are days where you go 50%, 25%, whatever you want to call it. But I think the hardest thing, and this is what separates the 4-star, 5-star, 3-star, half-star guys from you're going on the pendulum, you're either going left or you're going right. You're going down the beaten path of, shit, man, I ain't playing. Things aren't going my way. I'm getting all these reps in practice, but game time comes and it's not sliding my way. Or from a work situation, I'm staying late. I'm coming early. I'm not getting that raise. There's a managerial position available, and guess what? They're going to bring in an outside source, but I'm putting in the work. And it's hard to have that maturity to say, you know what? I'm going to swallow my pride, bite the bullet, keep my head down, keep my nose on the grindstone, and have a good attitude.
Yeah, and I think if you've never played college football or played at that level, I think the best comparison and wake-up call is your first fall camp, and you kind of wake up to that and you realize, wow, I'm here. Like, this is college and this is what it's about. But, I mean, just kind of to the point you're making, I remember very vividly, like, guys saying, like, oh, you're a quarterback, like, camp's not as hard for you as it is for me as far as the O-lineman and stuff. And at first I used to try to, like, argue with them, like, no, it's not. But then as I got older, I said, dude, you're 100% right. Like, I'm not getting banged up like you guys are. But as far as the mental side of things, like, I was dialed in, locked in mentally, like, exhausted from all day, like, staying locked in, learning the plays and different stuff like that. But it's definitely a different kind of aspects of fatigue, I guess you could say, on the mental side of it or physical. And maybe as the season goes on, I mean, you know, guys are 100% week 1, maybe week 2. And then after that, I mean, your 100% is really an 85%. And you got to stay dialed in 100% mentally, though.
And that's the thing mentally, because everyone, and this is the thing, winter ball, everyone's there. It's a fresh slate. Everyone's got positive vibes. Spring ball, some guys don't play spring ball because they're hurt. They got surgery. Spring ball, I think it can really help you if you have a really good spring.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have a really good spring, it doesn't necessarily hurt you per se.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of guys who don't play spring ball.
Yeah.
Summer ball is about respect, in my opinion. If you're loafing,
grinder,
your ass is gonna get called out. If you're grinding, all right, I respect that, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, fall camp, that's when it gets mentally hard. Depth charts start coming out.
Yeah.
People start getting hurt. Those days are long, man. If you ain't been there, you can't really know it. And I don't want to keep sounding like, oh, we're in some exclusive club where you just had to be there. But like, it is one of the most mentally draining months you could probably go through.
Right.
And everyone's itching at it. And like, everyone's hungry that first day of fall camp because you're so anxious to finally hit somebody again.
Yeah.
You're so anxious to make contact, put the pads back on. You're tired of the summer ball BS. Like, it's over with. And then you start getting hungry again, like the 15th of August. You're tired of the guest speakers. You're tired of the long meetings. Now you just want to play somebody else.
Yeah.
But like, you know, this is going to be, it'll be game 6 when people are listening to this. Like, hopefully the Dogs just beat San Jose. If not, whatever, we'll talk about that later. But, but point is, like, it's a long football season, man. It's a grind. And you're just, I don't want to say you feel like you're on this hamster wheel, but whether you like it or not, whether you're 6-0, 0-6, or something in between, guess what? Week 7's coming, baby.
Yeah.
And you either gotta, it's time, it's nut up or shut up time. Like, and some dudes, things aren't going their way. They start, hey, I'm just collecting my check, bro. Whatever. I just want my Scully check. I don't even really care if I play or not. And then you got the dudes who are hungry and they rise through the ashes. Yeah. And that's part of that consistency. And then that, you know, leads me to my next point of the difference between the mindset of I got to do something versus I get to do something. Yeah.
And I think that's 100% a daily reminder. That's something to where it sounds good. It's a nice clip. It's a highlight to kind of be able to say something that way, honestly. Like, you know, it's nice, but then to consistently wake up every day and remind yourself that's where the real battle is, to where every day. And I actually just listened to like an old clip of one of our old teammates talking about, to where as far as just, I don't know, it's a hard pill to swallow, and it almost sounds egotistical when you kind of say it, but like, honestly, at the end of the day, like, really nobody cares what you're doing. Like, it's like, whether you working your butt off and you're really in shape or you get out of shape, like, really nobody cares, like, but you. To where I think that's where I always kind of grew up such a people pleaser and kind of doing it for the crowd and doing this and doing that, to where it's like you realize you have to do stuff for you at the end of the day, to where, I mean, nobody's paying your bills for you. I can't remember the last time someone said, hey, let me pay your mortgage for you. It's like, no, like, you have to wake up and go to work and kind of put your boots on every day, to where I think that's a huge thing to kind of realize. It's like, hey, you got to wake up and do it for you and kind of find your own why.
I agree. And I also, to piggyback off that, from a football perspective, I always would think on those hard days, or the days where things aren't, you know, they ain't so shiny, they ain't rainbows and ponies and shit. I used to think about my last game ever, my senior year of high school. And if you're listening to this and you ever played football or you played a sport, your last game ever, I guarantee you probably had guys, they were crying. It's a sad deal. There's guys who they know this was their last time to ever strap it up. Their last football game ever. And football's a game of emotion, man. We've said it on our podcast together. Like, bro, there is no church league. There is no amateur league. There's no co-ed.
No city adult league.
That's what I'm saying. There's no like pickup basketball. It ain't the same. There's no indoor soccer. Like, you can't compare it to anything. Once you're done, it's over. It's done. Adios. And you think about, like, I really get to do this. Like, and, you know, like, I was a walk-on at first. Like, I wasn't collecting a check. I really wanted to do this shit. But, like, think about it. Like you're playing Division I college football. Like take advantage of every moment. And like, even now in the workforce, like there's people that I'll use Bring the Juice as an example. There's people that wish they could have a podcast that was bumping like Bring the Juice is. They've tried it. And I'm humble brag here, but like I get to do Bring the Juice. I don't got to do Bring the Juice. Like I love this shit and I'm hungry about it. And I hope everyone listening is, fired up that I got Marcus McMaryion on the pod and we're talking about some real stuff right now. Like I'm not trying to please people. I'm hoping people take a nugget of their Thursdays listening to Bring the Juice and they can apply it to their life and make their life better because of it. And it's not a black and white thing, but I do think we take advantage, especially you could just say living in America, bro. Right. Bro, we got clean water. We got a roof over our head. We got freedom. Like, the economy is not like the best ever right now. Interest rates are expensive. Stock market's in the shitter. Crypto, Dogecoin is screwing me right now. But like, dude, it's hard. Like,
I like that you take it that direction because kind of like you said, as far as I think it's just all dependent on how you look at things and how you spin things in perspective. To where I was just having this talk with my father-in-law, where he was kind of talking about all the different things that are going on in the economy, this and that, yada yada yada. And honestly, I was like, I don't even watch the news. I don't like.
I got Twitter.
It doesn't have an immediate effect on my life to where it doesn't like, oh, my life is altering, changing because this XYZ happened. To where it's all kind of perspective and kind of your outtake on it. As far as I always nerd out on like the brain and different stuff, like the reticular activating system, like whatever you focus on, you bring into your life and different stuff like that. To where I think if you want to focus on that and you want more of it to be in your life, I think it's more harming you than good. To where kind of just be conscious and kind of aware of what you're focusing on, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it also, I think about, as I was doing this pod, I posted a bunch of stuff on all my social medias, and I love social media because it's helping Bring the Juice grow, but also it's such a distraction to everything. Yeah. And we live in this bind of a world right now where you want to get more followers, more likes, more engagement, more views, all that crap. But at the same time, it's like, it's so much to follow. I want to get a flip phone where I have 20 contacts in my life that I actually talk to. And like that's like, I think how much simpler it would be, how much more focused I could be on things. Because I'd be lying if I said I don't go to the bathroom an extra 10 minutes because I'm scrolling on freaking Instagram Reels or some BS.
Yeah, and I think you kind of talked about as far as like why Bring the Juice has grown so much. I think I know why it's grown so much. Why do you feel like it's kind of had the success that it's had so far?
I think that I keep it very raw. I think that you're Marcus McMaryion, and I don't remember us talking about a touchdown in Boise ever once. Right. But we talk about real life stuff that the person who's played a sport, likes watching sports, or thinks about sports can relate to. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I personally just want to say, like, I want to credit you as far as like doing the podcast and doing what you're doing. I think it's grown so much because, like you said, it's authentic, it's real, but more than anything, like I'm looking at your hat, Bring the Juice, the chain juice, like you, I think you're a spitting image of that. Like that's what you lived throughout college. Like you were on the team, you knew, hey, I'm not going to go out there and score 5 touchdowns this game probably, but I could bring the juice, like own your role. Exactly. To where I think you're a spitting image of your brand. And I think that's the quickest way to grow a brand. A lot of people are maybe trying to grow something they're not exactly the brand, but I mean, you're a living spitting image and like living Bring the Juice. To where I just want to kind of credit you for that. And I think that's why it's grown so much, because
I appreciate that.
You bring the juice.
Well, it's that hot shit. I appreciate it. You're welcome. No, but you know what? Seriously though, like before I started the pod, and I've mentioned this a few times, like I knew I wanted to start a podcast. I knew I had a sports career. I knew I was hungry to be a successful young man. And me and you always shooting the shit. I got a stack of 100 books over here. Yeah. We're reading books. We're bouncing them off each other. I mean, people who don't know, like me and Marcus we are like, let's talk about iron sharpens iron. This is exactly it right here. Yeah. And I knew though, if I wanted to start a pod, I wanted to start a pod maybe about like early 20s guys trying to get ahead in life. Yeah. How you could read these books and apply them. how you could better your mental health, how you could take things you learned in athletics, even high school football, and it's still relevant towards kicking ass. But you know what? I'm not Grant Cardone. I'm not freaking Gary, whatever the hell his name is. Like I'm not Jocko. Like I'm not. But I know that athletes go through shit mentally that is not easy.
Right.
And they overcome it. And that's builds character, which is within deep in the belly of their soul, which that same character, those same morals, those same principles, they're relevant. People want to hear about why you are the way you are. They want to hear about how you're not Fresno State QB1 who's winning the Mountain West, MVP at these bowl games, but you're still rising. Like you got a family, you got a kid on the way. I don't know if you got a son. But it's it's coming. And like just to have that platform where I could have these professional athletes on, and we don't talk about Jose Ramirez's knockouts as a world champ. We don't talk about freaking your touchdowns in Boise. We don't talk about Michael Walker's first interception on the Falcons. Like, I really don't care. I want to know about like the human being side of you and like why you're wired the way you are, because guess what? This is elite athletes chasing greatness. They are elite athletes. I get people hit me up all the time. Oh, my daughter's a high school water polo. She's all league. Listen, bro, that's awesome. I wish her the best. I really do. I would love for her to bring the juice. But there's levels to this shit, low-key. Like you need to go through the ringer. And I've talked to you about it. Like, I'll be honest, there's dudes who I played with at Fresno State. They're big, they're fast, but they're not grinders. And I wouldn't have them on the pod because I don't think they have valuable mindsets to share to the young athletes, to the parents of those young athletes, and the people listening to this podcast. And
I think something that's not talked about a ton is just like the respect and standards and kind of things, just quality of character that people hold themselves to that are on this podcast. I feel like to where it's something that's really underlooked and not talked about enough, to where just having the integrity and character to say yes, please, no, thank you. Like every time I'm around your parents, like it's always really respectful. Every time you're around my parents, it's always really respectful. I never have to worry about you cursing or trying to do something or disrespecting my family or anything like that. And even if we're close, but it's like some guys, it's like I don't know what they're gonna do, to where you have to kind of keep a steady kind of boundary sometimes with some guys.
I'm sending out wedding invitations right now, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm getting married in the Catholic church, got a nice reception, taking these guys to some nice dinners, taking them to church, taking them to Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner. Like, my family's very open to the team. If you've ever played at Fresno State with a Delana brother, you know that by now. But, bro, I swear to God, if one of these dudes pull ups in like some ripped jeans and like a Kanye West t-shirt, my fiance is going to freak out. My mom's going to freak out. And I've texted the dudes who are on the bubble. I'm like, hey, man, listen, you got 7 months.
Just know what's going on.
Go save up $90 and get yourself a suit. And you know what? You'll wear it for a long time for other stuff too. You should have a suit. I'm sorry. Burn the $100, bro. Shit, there was that place at Fresno State, Plato's Closet. You could freaking get something. James Bailey has like the fittiest of that. Boy looks like Peaky Blinders with all the suits he has, man.
And I think a lot of it too is like the majority of guys that I know that excelled at a high level, I'd say 95% of them are really good dudes off the field. There's a couple dudes kind of slip through the cracks. Like, hey, this guy's not very a good person, but hey, he's a hell of a ball player. But I'd say majority of guys that are elite athletes that are succeeding at a really high level, they're really good people on and off the field. And just as far as the way they carry themselves and kind of speak about other people, and they're always uplifting and taking the time to sign and do just all the different things that they do. I think that goes a long ways as far as helping you and aiding your ability to perform on the field.
I couldn't agree more. I want to transition real quick before I got a few ad reads. I'm going to start with Fresno First Bank.
There you go.
You're familiar with them by now.
I am. They just shot me a follow.
What? Shout out to Fresno First Bank. Their tailgates are electric lately.
There you go.
Great people that work there. But Fresno First Bank, they're a local bank to Fresno in the community, and they got a strong connection with business owners to help them grow and succeed. At Fresno First, they're never too busy for you. I walk in there all the time. Give me a handshake, a high five, a knuckles, a go dogs, hey, I really like that last episode of Burning the Juice. Like, keep it up. And I'm like, Thank you. I really appreciate the support on that. But if you're looking for a definitive banking experience where they're going to treat you like family and take a sound business approach, then you need Fresno First. It's not even close. They understand business. They personalize the procedures for all the business owners. It's electric. So shout out to Fresno First. Additionally, Dervos Deli, you're drinking out of the cup right now.
That's right.
Let me see that real quick.
A little
flash. Dervos Deli. Ding. I got to finish my deal with them. I've been talking about it on Juice for a while. I got to talk to the owner, Justin, Fresno State alum, the best deli in the 559. I would put money on it in California. And, I want to make it to where we have a day where you bring the Juice hat in, free side, free chips, free soda. They're going to start serving beer, something to get the boys rowdy.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dervos Deli. They do sell sweet D onions, so they're obviously high quality, but their bread's perfectly toasted. The tomatoes have the perfect level of slice. Lettuce is crispy. Chicken is cooked perfectly, juicy, not dry. They got nice aiolis, good barbecues. Shout out to Dervos Deli. If you haven't been yet, what are you doing, man? What the hell what are you doing? Get there, okay? But transitioning, Marcus, the game's changed. I know you work with young athletes now. You work with all kinds of athletes, and if we wanted to start from a broad perspective, I don't want to dive too deep, but deep enough into it. Mm-hmm. The transition from high school ball to college, what would you say is the biggest difference? And if you had any advice for young kids in that sector to prepare, what would you say?
I would say the biggest transition from high school to college is, I would say, just the time priority of it all, and not realizing how much time that you're actually going to dedicate to your sport. I mean, you might have practice in the morning, then you're going to go to class, and you might have an hour or two break, and you would think on paper, hey, I'm going to take a nap right here, but you're going to have to go do some treatment or roll out or do different things to where, you're
ice bathing, you're
doing so much stuff. You're watching tape, you're watching film. There's just so much stuff that it's a continuous thing. And I think the biggest thing for me, now that I'm done playing, kind of looking back on it, you don't realize how much your family's going to have to sacrifice for you going there. And I think now that I'm not playing, I realize that, to where my family's life really revolved around my football schedule. Hey, Marcus is at Stanford this week, or Marcus is in Boise this week. We're going to travel here. We're going to travel. And I know your family traveled a ton to where
right now.
Yeah, you're doing it right now with your brother, to where, you don't realize hey, this is my goal, my dream. I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm living it. I'm breathing it. But it's going to affect a lot of people in your immediate circle, that they're going to have to shift their schedules to basically accommodate you.
And you know what though? It's funny. I don't know how you were, but my family's simple folk, and we farm onions, man. And we're pretty, we got a routine, I guess you could call it. My parents work all week. When my mom would take their kids to practice, my mom and dad would go to the games. They were supportive there. Never the parent to watch practice or anything. Just they drop me off, they pick me up. Obviously they enjoyed watching me play, and we would go to church on Sunday mornings. We'd eat breakfast after, and then we go to my grandma's house for Sunday dinner. It's just the old school, American Italian freaking farm family. And I never really went anywhere my entire life until I started playing college football.
Right.
I went on an airplane to Kentucky because I had a great grandma that died. We called her Kentucky Grandma. And I was in 4th grade. And I remember it because I went on an airplane. And then I remember it because I didn't know the lady. In Kentucky, they served us spaghetti, and instead of marinara sauce, red sauce with spaghetti, the lady put ketchup with it. And I remember saying to my mom and dad, this is kind of jacked up. And I was like, what's wrong with this spaghetti?
Yeah, I have no words for that.
Bro, I remember, I'm freaking 25 years old. This was 15 years ago, man. And I'm traumatized still from it.
Yeah.
Point is, what I'm getting to, we didn't go many places. My family didn't go many places. And then, I redshirted my freshman year, dressed a few games.
Yeah.
But then my first year I was eligible, my redshirt freshman year, I traveled every week.
Yeah.
I mean, I counted it one day. I've traveled to 26 states to play football. I've been to Hawaii like 3 or 4 times to play football. Like I haven't been a lot of places to actually see it, but I could say I've been in Nebraska. I could say I've been to Alabama. I could say I've been to all these places. And my family got to, kind of experience them. Like I remember my parents when we played Bama, like they went and saw the one college bar, then they came and watched us play. Like they got to see these places. And as much as it is a burden, flights are expensive. Your weekends are, from August to December, do not have a wedding, do not have an event. Like, bro, we're booked up. We're going, and it's such a small window and a rare thing to you're gonna go watch your kid play. Yeah. Whether he's QB1 or hustling on special teams, you're gonna watch your kid. And I think my family, they knew the work I put in, the passion I had for the sacrifice, to where they're like, Frank worked his ass off to do this. We're gonna go watch him play in Nebraska.
Same thing. And I think my family was the same way too, to where I was kind of on a quarterback carousel a little bit when I was at Oregon State, and I would almost give my parents a free pass. I would tell them hey, you don't have to come to this game if you don't want to. It's cool. I'm not offended.
We're going to Mexico. Yeah, good, bro.
Don't go. It's fine. You're good. It's all good. I know it's expensive. You got to travel. You got to drive. You got to fly. And they would say when you have a kid, you understand, we're not going to miss the game. We're going to be there to support you. And that's something that I'm super appreciative for to have. Just having that family support and people that want to be in my corner and watch me, whether I was playing, 50 snaps or 2 snaps, or they weren't sure if I was going to play or not, where it's definitely something that was motivating and kind of pushing me.
Well, you don't, and I agree. And right now, my brother Max playing for Fresno State, if he wasn't, I probably wouldn't be as hardcore about it. But bro, it's little bro. We shared a room from he was born till he was 18. I know the kid better than anybody. I know how he thinks. I know how he feels. I know when he's struggling. I know he's succeeding. I know what to say to him, when, what, where. I'll tell you right now, the dude's ready to go. Yeah. But he's in the best headspace I've ever seen him in. Red Wave, this kid's about to explode. Watch out for Zero. But I'm saying, watching him, and of course that's bias. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be? You think David Carr, he's an NFL analysis and he picks the Raiders every week. Yeah. You got to look out for your
I'd hope you support your family.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm not going to, I've missed out on some bring the juice opportunities because I'm my brother's has a football game that weekend. I'm not going to, I know how rare it is to play at that high of a level. And more than anything, dude, we take advantage of it a little bit. Yeah. Oh, bro, we're just playing Nevada this week. Oh, you're playing on ESPN too, bro.
That's
you used to dream about shit like this. Yeah. And you become numb to it over time.
That's very true. Yeah. And I never, that's a good point. I never really thought about that, to where it's a lot of times you're oh yeah, we're playing whatever, Nevada, Wyoming, but it's dude, you're playing on national television and everyone across the country could watch you if they wanted to just flip the channel. If there's someone to watch you on accent, oh, that's Marcus. What the heck?
Late night at a hotel, you check in, you're oh shit, Fresno State's playing Marcus. I know, blah, blah, blah. It's electric. So if you're a kid who's getting recruited right now, what would you say is the absolute number one thing that kid must be doing?
I would advise someone who's trying to get to to the college level. Yeah. Find someone who's been there, done that, and ask them advice and do what they did to basically get there. To as far as I remember, I was the first one in my family to get recruited, and especially in Dinuba. Nobody had gone Division I since the 70s. I was the first one in a really long time, to where there's a lot of trial and error going to camps that I probably shouldn't have gone to, that were kind of the different money grab things and showcase and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Whereas I kind of found out throughout the process that go directly to the camps. If Fresno State's hosting a camp and Tedford and Kirby and JD and those guys are out there, go to those camps, because you want to develop a relationship with the coaches that are actually going to have the ability to offer you a scholarship, versus going to some Joe Bro average dude who's hey, I could send this out for you. It's no, just go directly to the coaching staff who's there and available. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to be available. The recruiting game, even from our era to now, it's changed. I didn't have a Twitter when I was getting recruited. It wasn't a thing. I had a huddle and I emailed people. Yeah. That's pretty much it. And I went to a few camps and it all panned out. Yeah. But I would agree, build those relationships. Yeah. I tell, a lot of young athletes reach out to me through Bring the Juice, and I've built some relationship with these kids, give them pointers. And like one of the biggest things I could say, they're like, hey, I'm going to a camp. And I said, hey, at the end of that camp, first of all, you have to ball out. Like you,
let's park it right there real quick, because that's something I really want to talk about. To where people, I feel like everyone's kind of looking for like, hey, what's a magic pill to get a scholarship offer? Like, dude, you got to be a dog. Like, you can't, like, let's just stop right there for a second. If you're not like balling out at your position, you're not going to go Division I. It's just like, let's stop it right there. As far as like, you can pay as much money as you want to your trainer, to the camps. You could fly all over the country, but if you're not putting up to stats, you're not going to get recruited. And that's just something to where I think you have to have that real conversation with people sometimes. Like humble brag, I threw 43 touchdowns my junior year. Like, how'd you get recruited? I threw 43 touchdowns. I didn't throw a pick until playoffs. I was leading California. California has some really good athletes.
Humble brag.
So you do stuff like that. Like, that's how you get recruited, you know? Like, go, if you're a receiver, go score 3-4 touchdowns a game. You're going to get recruited. And me being from a small town, like you were from Fresno, San Joaquin, you have some bigger talent, bigger guys that are going D1 every year. But if you want teams to find you, ball out, be good.
You have to win.
Yeah.
And I tell kids too, like a couple of people have sent me their huddles, and I'll just be like, hey man, a 10-yard gain where you get caught, don't put that as your first play.
Yeah.
Put your best plays first.
Yeah.
Put your 90-yard touchdown first, where you juke the shit out of everybody.
3 to 5 plays if you're lucky to catch that college coach's attention. If you don't grab his attention with that 90-yard touchdown at the beginning, like, oh, this is decent, I'll watch the next play.
Yeah.
Oh, this is decent, I'll watch the next play. Hold on, this kid's actually something. Let me keep watching, you know?
Right. Have the grades too.
Yeah.
Make yourself accessible.
Yeah.
Be a solution, not a problem.
Yeah. And I think that was big for me too, understanding just being from a small school. It's like, hey man, they could find an exact replica duplication of you at Buchanan. They're going to take the Buchanan kid every time. And it's just something to where you got to swallow that reality. It is what it is, to where if you're at a small school and it's not known for putting D1 kids out every year, you have to have those intangibles and different things and be squeaky clean. And even if you are that kid at Buchanan, if you don't have the grades, they're going to go right across the street to Memorial or Clovis North or to Central or wherever the case is. Like, you have to be a balanced athlete and just well-rounded person, kind of like we talked about this whole podcast.
And I mean, again, going back to the controllables, man. Like, if you have 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns, and another guy has 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns, one guy's got a 3.5, the other guy's got a 2.2.
Yeah,
they're taking this guy 100% of the time. 100% of the time. I don't think people understand, and especially I knew, being like a guy who could go like Montana State, FCS, or like a Fresno State. I knew that me having good grades was going to help my case. And I knew dudes that were good athletes that didn't have good grades, and guess what? They didn't get those opportunities.
Yeah, and I think something's important for people to know too is, like, especially like I was fortunate enough to have, the UCLA's and the Washingtons coming to visit and calling me during class and stepping out and stuff like that. But more importantly, like the football we talked about, that's important. That's what's going to tease the coaches, get their interest to come. But then once that happens and you have their attention, the process just started. Like, all right, here we go, to where I remember coaches come into the school and they would talk to my football coach last. They would talk to the principal, my teacher, see where I sit, am I talking. I remember having a home visit where Oregon State came over for dinner at my house, and they're talking to my little sisters like, hey, is he, like, jokingly but really serious, like, is he a good brother to you? Like, is he nice to you? And not talking to my parents, and like, they're investing. I think 1 year of out-of-state tuition at Oregon State was like $45,000. Like, they're not just signing you like, hey, come to my school for $20. Like, they're investing a lot of money into you to go to that school, to where they're going to do their due diligence just like they do in the league. I mean, they do the whole medical check, and you're definitely an investment for sure.
Well, I think, the other side of that coin, the process of getting recruited or being a coach who's recruiting, a lot of guys are fast. A lot of guys have good highlight tapes. But, like, don't shoot yourself in the foot. Don't post stupid stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
Be a high character guy. And like, you want high character guys in your locker room. And I was getting to that. One thing I've told all my recruits: you go to a camp, let's say you're Fresno State and you're a kid from Dinuba, Buchanan, Central, whatever, and you're not the highly recruited guy, but you had a good camp. And they maybe they wrote your name down. Maybe you won like one of the little awards or some shit. Dude, go up, to the head coach.
Right.
Go up to the offensive coordinator. Go up to the strength. Go up to anybody that looks like they're a coach.
Yeah.
Shake their hand. Because in today's generation, everyone's antisocial at this point. Everyone wants to be on their phones. They want to post a little Instagram pic. I get it. We've all been there, bro. You want to look hard for the gram. I totally get it.
Yeah.
But like engaging in a conversation, shaking their hand like a grown-ass man, looking them in the eye. It's becoming a thing that was once regular. That's now it's like, hey, you know what? That kid, he had a pretty good camp. We offered all these guys, but you know, I kind of like that guy. He came up and shook my hand like a grown ass man. Yeah,
and I think for you to piggyback on that, I'll throw all the high school kids a lob right here as far as what I used to do. As far as going to those big camps, you know, as soon as you get to the camp, who the 4 stars are, who the 3 stars are. The reporters are talking to them before the camp even starts. I would find those kids. And I would go right behind the quarterback. Every time he would throw, I'm right behind him. I'm making the same throw. Right. He's going to get water, I'm going to get water. I would literally do whatever he did. And you're going to accidentally get some coverage because the camera's still rolling. You're like, oh, dude, who the heck is this kid? He just made a good throw, actually, to where I credit a lot of the success I had in recruitment being that small town kid. I would find whoever the best kids were, go right behind them, make the exact same throw they did. And if anything, it's a good wake-up call for you. It's like, hey, am I good or am I good enough to play at this level? Like, this is kid's a 3-star. He's going here. Can I do what he's doing? And it's a good wake-up call for people to realize, hey, maybe I'm a D2 guy, or maybe I'm a D1 guy, or I don't have any offers, but I'm doing exactly what this D1 kid's doing. I could play at this level.
Right. I mean, you know, you got to create your own opportunities sometimes too. If you're doing a camp, bro, go to the front of the line every time. Get done and cut back to the front of the line. Because I've been there where dudes are cutting me and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Like, bro, it's my job. But guess what? They're getting 30 reps and I'm getting 4.
Yeah, and they're getting all the write-ups.
So you gotta be aggressive, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm sure you had a moment like that too, because I mean, you didn't walk on to Fresno State just randomly like, oh, let's see, shot in the dark, see if I could play here. Like, I'm sure you had a couple moments to where you played with some dudes who had offers and you're like, dude, I've lined up against this dude, or I've done this, I've done that. Like,
all the time.
I believe I belong here. And you got to have that sense of belonging too, to have that confidence. Yeah, you got to have a certain swagger about you too.
Oh, I love it. All right, so by the time this pod airs, Fresno State hopefully already beat San Jose, but they played. And I was talking to Coach Jeff Tedford last night at the Coach's Show. It's on Fox Sports Radio. Everyone go check it out. Coach Tedford is always on with Paul Loeffler. And, you know, the rivalries in sports. And I want to get into the Fresno State ones to end it, but I'm just thinking, like, I wrote down a few of the best rivalries in sports. Here's some of the ones I got. Tell me if I forgot any. Yankees, Red Sox. Dodgers, Giants. Packers, Bears. I'm going to throw in Raiders, Chiefs right now just because
past couple of years
there's been a little bit of beef.
Yeah.
Oklahoma versus Texas. The Red River rivalry is electric.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's always electric. Notre Dame, USC. I don't know why. Maybe I watched Notre Dame a lot growing up. But it just, and Reggie Bush, Brady Quinn, it was just kind of
that SC Texas when Vince Young was there. That was big.
Yeah. I'm going to throw UCLA, USC in there too. Yeah. You have to.
Battle LA.
One of my personal favorites, Army Navy. It's just, if you're American, like, how can you not love it? It's always dramatic. It's always like 17-14. The cadets are awesome.
Yeah.
Like, it's got its own weekend. Army Navy's got to be in there. I'm going to throw the big game, Michigan, Ohio State. And then my other bullet point was USA versus Canada in hockey.
You know, I'm not as seasoned in the hockey game, but I would imagine I've heard about it before, though, to where I know that's a big deal.
Yeah. I had to Google some research to make sure I didn't miss any. And that one came across, and I was like, okay. Yeah. That's respectable. What else? What else? I can't think of any else.
Oregon State fans would hate me if I didn't say the Oregon State-Oregon game, just because I was actually a part of that game.
Is that the Civil War?
Yeah, the Civil War. Yeah, so that's been going on for a while. But I know houses that were literally divided like that game. Like, don't talk to me. I'm going to watch the game over here. You go watch the game over there. Wow. And there's some quirky.
I could have put like Harvard, Yale on there, I feel like. BYU, Utah's a good one. Dude.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good one.
Say what you want, and this is what I was going to lead into. Okay. the San Jose State game's already passed, but we played Boise a couple weeks ago. Got San Diego coming up. We have San Jose State as a rival. We have Boise as a rival. And we have San Diego as a rival. Now, San Jose State, it's the Valley Trophy. I personally think San Jose State is complete frauds because they don't rep the Valley the way we do. Only one of us has the V on our helmet.
Right.
And wears it religiously. I'm actually going to get it branded on me. I know I've said that for a while now, but it's going to happen.
It's coming.
And it's like, we're the Valley. We produce the agriculture. What it technology? Silicon Valley? Whatever, man. I think they're frauds for that one. That trophy's heavy as hell. How much that trophy weigh?
That trophy is really heavy.
100 pounds? No.
It's a solid
Over 50,
it's a solid
over 50.
60. It's a solid 60 for
it's
sure.
one of those ones where you grab it.
You get a little
oh.
You get a little grunt.
If you had to do like an over the head, you're kind of
yeah.
If this falls, it's gonna knock you out.
Yeah. I'm gonna miss some teeth after this.
This is what I'm saying. That Valley Trophy is thick.
Yeah. And I think the big thing with rivalries too is I think it's just important for the guys to understand, like, obviously it sounds cliche and boring, like understand the history, but really like what it means. I think I had so much more of a respect for the Boise game after the Boise game.
Yeah.
Like I knew it was a big deal.
Which one? The first one we ever played?
When we won the Mountain West Championship. When we won
the last one.
Okay. Like I knew it was a big deal. Like, oh, we haven't won there in a long time, yada yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, like it's a rivalry game. Like I get it. Like I'm pumped, I'm excited for it, I'm dialed in. But then seeing the reactions of like the fans, dude, like that like made me like sit back like, dude, this is a big game. Like I had no idea. Like people were recording the last play, like they're pumped up, screaming at the TV, jumping up and down. And I think for guys just to understand the history to where, I mean, you're talking a rivalry game, 6-0 versus 6-0, 0-6 versus 0-6. I mean, it's gonna be a dogfight. It doesn't matter what the records are.
And that's kind of like, you know, like I agree. So if I had to rank our rivals, and I think UCLA is low key like becoming a rival. Like
it's not much of a rivalry when you sweep them that much, you know. But whatever.
Barbecue chicken. But like, I think when we beat Boise, it feels the best.
Yeah.
But I think like the standard for the San Jose State game is like you don't lose to San Jose State.
Yeah.
Like you secure the bag.
Yeah.
Winning the Valley Trophy. San Diego, it's kind of like, so I googled the origins behind the trophies, and I remember Coach Tedford used to tell us the reasoning. So the San Jose State game, it's because of the Valley. That trophy's rather new-ish. San Diego, there's an oil can that we play for, which is a small ass oil can, and like the origins really, I don't want to call it weak, but it's a little weak.
The oil can.
The oil can. The reason it's an oil can is because
it's like the long haul or something across, right?
Allegedly driving from Fresno to San Diego in the early days, people used to carry a can of water and a can of oil because their cars wouldn't make it over
the grapevine. And I remember that.
Shit. Yeah. And like, is that like our... Is that trophy worthy?
I don't know. That's tough. And honestly, I will say the cool thing when I got to Fresno State, I didn't realize how many trophies you play for every year. That's pretty cool.
The golden screwdriver.
Like not even counting. I mean, like the bowl game, the championship. Those are dope. Obviously, you want to be in those games. But I mean, like you said, you got the milk can, you got the Valley V, you got the oil can. And I don't know if it's a myth or not, but you got that screwdriver that you talked about. I don't really know where it's at or what's going on. But
we've beat Hawaii enough times where like,
right. Yeah, you could keep the screwdriver.
Yeah. Shove it up. But I don't know. I mean, and then the milk can, you know, there was a dairyman in Boise and there was a dairyman in Fresno who were buddies, and they developed this freaking, you know, trophy. And it's cool.
That's news to me. I didn't even know that.
It looks like the Stanley Cup a little bit, I think.
Kind of does.
It's kind of big. It's a big trophy. It's a big one.
It's not as heavy, that Valley View one. Now that you mention it.
Okay, I'm saying
the other ones are pretty light though. Like you could pick those up and really
can,
like.
It's like an empty paint can. Literally.
Yeah. You could take any kind of picture you want, move it around.
I'm telling you, there is specific poses you could do with this Valley. If you see a dude with that Valley View over, just know he's flexing and it's coming directly right down.
Yeah.
And it's a little awkward and like, bro, the last thing you want to do is drop a trophy.
Oh yeah.
Didn't someone break a trophy?
I don't know, probably. I know you were pretty intentional. You always got there pretty quick. Mr. Frank Delana always had some fire picks with the trophies. I will say that.
Me and Marcus I think we're on like
We had a lot of them.
pamphlet or something.
Yeah,
after the Vegas one.
Yeah, that was on the front cover.
Bro.
Yeah,
I'm talking. We're like putting it down. There's no red wave behind us.
Yeah.
We're like, shh, 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 shh.
Good times, man. Good times.
Rivalries in sports, man. I mean, they're electric, and I think, to end it, like, college football is the most electric.
Yeah, it's tough to compare, and I heard someone talking about kind of like youth football. It's just so pure, Yeah. And I think college football is the same, to where I think everyone in the NFL, no matter how much they love it, they kind of have their price point to where, win or lose, I'm making $1 million. Like it's gonna affect you to some point. I don't know what your number is in the league, but I think everyone has that number to where it's like, man, win, lose or draw, I'm making $1 million on Tuesday. Like it doesn't matter. But in college, I mean, you're out there grinding, dude. You're playing for your brothers.
I hope this NIL thing doesn't turn it into that, and I really don't think it will.
I think it's going to be similar to the league, where you're going to have 4 or 5 dudes on every team that are really raking it in, and everyone else is going to kind of
like top 5 teams. Like
right.
Fresno State. I mean,
they might have a couple dudes bringing in a couple grand here and there and different deals and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's good for the sport. I think if you have the ability to build a brand and do it yourself, just like anyone else in college, then more power to you, man. Handle it.
Definitely advice to, if you're in any sort of a athletic profile position, you got to strike while iron's hot, man, because guess what? You're not that athlete forever.
Yeah.
And if you could capitalize on your brand, capitalize on your name, make the most of it, because people want to be your friend when you're still the bee's knees, the cat's pajamas, that hot shit.
Yeah.
Once you're an old head,
facts. Yeah.
Whatever.
I know when I was playing at Fresno State, I mean, you have that ability and credibility to call the CEO and get him on the phone right away. You don't have to call the front desk. You don't have to go to talk to this person. You call the head man himself, and he will pick up the phone.
Right. And Fresno is one of those cities where, like, I'll be open. I'm on the other side of this now. Like, I want hungry, high-character athletes someday working for Delana Farms. Someday maybe I start another podcast they could co-host, or they could do their own podcast under Bring the Juice. Like, high character people will never go out of style.
Right.
Marcus, I'm going to wrap it up here. You got anything else you want to say to Bring the Juice?
Amen. Keep bringing the juice. Go Dogs to the day we die.
Till the day we die, baby. This has been another great episode of the Bring the Juice podcast. Be sure to follow Marcus. He's going to be back on probably pretty soon here. What's new? We always have fire episodes. Get your piss hot this week, and bring the juice, baby.
Bring the juice.